and our beach access about 44%. I believe the reason for that is the high prices during the week. So that's something we can fine-tune next year and possibly make a decision to one way or the other. Our personnel, we had to add 3 additional parking attendants, so our expenses there went up, and 1 additional ranger. And we had a couple of turnovers. One was the gentleman that was here at a couple of meetings, and we had another one after that. And it was basically a restructuring of our parking personnel. We're in the process right now of devising our winter work plan. Frank has already put it down on paper, and it's a matter of just implementing it. End of season closing plan, end of season personnel, which is scanning down. We've already begun implementing that, so that anticipation of the lost revenue as the season gets a little cooler. We're going to pull up 8 tree stumps, which were scheduled sometime this week. And the park and beach detailing, we're about 20% done, as well as repainting the wrought iron fence. And, Bill, if you want to elaborate on our cultural events, we have another cultural event coming up.
Well, let's see. We have an exhibit by a local rye sculptor.
Yeah, well, I can't record you over there.
The town of the Rye Town Park, part of our mission is to try to expand and find ways of getting more people involved in the park as a park. And one of the ways to do that is through the art shows that we've had. And we, for the past 3 years, this is the 3rd year, that we've done a sculpture exhibit at the park. This year it's going to open up on Saturday, August 21st, and go through, I think, the 24th of October. It's a sort of a multi-piece sculpture by Rye artist Bob Clyett, and there's going to be a reception on Sunday, September 12th. I hope everybody who's here comes to it and meet the artist and find out what his vision is. He designed this whole thing for the duck pond at Rye Town Park, so he's basically trying to sort of comment about putting sculpture into a natural setting and having the interaction between the pond and the sculpture hopefully stir up people's interest. And so there's been a couple articles about it in the newspaper, and I guess that's about it. We plan to have more art shows in coming years, in the spring or the fall, and we're always looking for ideas for new activities in the way of the arts at Rye Town Park.
Is it true that one of the heads is yours, Bill?
Yes. One of the 45.
If I could ask a question, I know that Heather Patterson had brought an idea to us about creating, I'll call it a whole host of souvenirs, if you will, that were Rye Town Park souvenirs, if you can envision. Photos of Rye Town Park on mouse pads, on coffee cups, those kinds of things, T-shirts, etc. I was curious as to whether anything...
Yeah, she's been away. She teaches at a camp up in the Catskills in the summertime, so it's kind of on hold right now, but definitely an idea that we have looking into, having products that would promote Rye Town Park. Yes, there would be sort of it might generate a little bit of income, but the income wouldn't necessarily be the highest part of it, but the idea of getting people having items that would sort of advertise Rye Town Park. Mm-hmm. And I know that the Friends of Rye Town Park have done some things along those lines too, so whatever we would do, we would certainly coordinate with them so that everybody could be involved in it in a productive way. So. Fred asked me to mention about, in terms of the park aspects of our maintenance, we have some tree work that's coming up. The Friends are paying for the 50% of the pruning and removal of dead branches and those things. We did a survey of the park in the spring, and now it's time to get out and remove the dead branches and things. Some of you may recall that last fall, I think it was in the end of September, early October, we planted 14 new trees over there to replace the 19 trees that we had to cut down in 2008 because they were dead. And so our goal is to try to revitalize the park, not necessarily put in more trees overall, but to take the areas that had trees and introduce new trees. The garden clubs of Rye also planted a 15th tree, a white oak, a swamp oak, that everything seems to be doing well, despite the fact we've had the second hottest July on record. And I have to thank Frank DeLeo and his team for making sure they were watered, because it's crucial that when you plant new trees that they get the water they need. So we also, just throwing in the last part of that, is the pond has been, some people have been concerned about the condition of the pond. I went back and did a little research, because even though I've lived there and seen the changes in the pond, you don't always remember exactly what happened when. And basically, the pond project was given the go-ahead with the grant money in 2003, and it was almost all the work was done in 2004. So the pond is now 6 years old, basically, as a functioning ecosystem. And the mission of that pond was to reduce the nitrogen level of the water going into Long Island Sound. So it clearly has an environmental purpose. And so we're working to make sure that the pond functions in that regard. And so we've had some work done, making sure that it all is approved by the DEC. And in fact, it was the DEC that monitored the grant money that produced that pond in the first place. So we are working on that, and the Friends of Rye Town Park are very much involved in that. In fact, when this project was done, they basically promised to provide the ongoing support, because like any pond, it needs management. If it were left to its own devices, it would probably fill up or dry out, or many different things could grow there. So we're trying to keep it, in the state that it was set up to be back in 2004. Oh, and wait.
Right down, Friends right down.
Oh, the gates. Yeah, they're doing the gates. All the gates. Some of the gates have been replaced already. The rest of them are in schedule to be replaced. They are old chain link fences, gates that were. If those of you may remember, the whole fence along the beach was chain link until the Friends of Rye Town Park raised the money to put in the fencing. So the last piece of that was to put in gates that match the fencing. So that's in the works now. Is that it? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Lord.
I have a couple of questions about the revenue stream and the figures that we received through July 31st. I guess Sam or Bishop. My question is, the parking fees of $236,000. We also had a beach summary, a separate statement. Is this net of the fees? The computer runs show about $253. This is $236. Are we factoring net to Seaside Johnny's, or has that not been factored yet into these numbers?
The difference between the gross and the net, we have to back out sales tax. We actually pay sales tax on that.
Okay, so that's what it...
If you see 250, whatever,
Yeah.
the difference is the sales tax liability that's incurred.
Yeah, I knew it was
Part of the
less
price.
something, but I wanted to know exactly what was net.
We don't add it onto the price, so it's included in the price. I pull it out.
Right, okay. But we still haven't paid and reimbursed Seaside Johnny's? We haven't done that, so that hasn't been factored in also. And the only other thing that I just want to point out is, and Bishop, you've asked the Commission if there's any particular details that we would want, and as long as I'm here, when we look at the expenses, if you note, the salaries are up about 35% in the aggregate from last year. Of course, last year was a particularly rainy summer, and people don't necessarily work when it's raining. But if you also look to the year before, to 2008, it's a substantial difference. And I understand that we've hired more security and attendance and the like. But I'd like to be able to look at that analysis as we go into next year.
Let me bring up one point. This is the first year I can remember that the payroll actually ended on July 31st. So
Okay.
you may have had a timing difference of about a week worth of payroll.
Which will make a difference. Sure,
Compared to the 2 years prior.
That's a
I
good
mentioned that
point.
to, Mr. Milani
Well, that's a
here.
good point, because obviously that differential would